Hey, Dr. C here. Today I'm discussing the 4 pillars of pain relief, and I'm going to focus my attention on the concept of meditation. I plan to expand a little bit more on this concept today, and the title of the video is Mindfulness, Manifestation, or the Hand of God. When I look at these 3 different approaches to viewing the world or viewing life, I can see how they overlap and have similarities. These are basically different philosophical approaches for the answer to the same question. The question is, how can I best maximize my outcome given my current situation? First, we'll start with mindfulness. Mindfulness is a form of meditation. I include many different forms of meditation in these 4 pillars that I call meditation. Mindfulness, cognitive behavioral modification, biofeedback, meditation. All of these are basically the same thing. They're just different ways of changing your psychology in order to improve your situation. We know that they work. They've been shown to work over and over and over for decades. We know that cognitive behavioral therapy improves function and improves pain control. We know biofeedback does the same thing. Mindfulness is a form of meditation, and it's also been well demonstrated in the medical literature and in the psychological literature to improve physical function and outcome and well-being. And no pain relief program can be effective if you don't include some sort of a meditative practice in your approach. When discussing mindfulness specifically, what you learn to do is accept your reality for what it is and not to push against what your reality is, but rather learn to flow with it. Learn to accept your situation, learn how to live within the constraints of your situation, and learn how to maximize your function and your mood and your life experience within your current situation. And we do this without thinking about it every day. For example, I've accepted the reality that I am not going to be a professional basketball player. As much as I may have wanted to be able to play pro basketball, I'm just not built for it. I don't have the physical capabilities, I don't have the height, and I don't have the athletic talent necessary to play professional basketball. I can either spend all my time wishing that this weren't so, or I can figure out ways around it. I can play in a pickup league, or I can shoot baskets with my kid, or I can go and find something that I am capable of doing that's more suitable to my skills and talents. So I didn't spend a lot of time beyond the preteen years worrying about whether or not I was going to play basketball. I just accepted my situation for what it is and found other avenues for fulfillment in life. I didn't let this barrier affect my total life. The problem with pain is that for many people, it becomes all they think about, all they concentrate on, and all they can imagine. And they spend the majority of their time railing against the situation, wishing it weren't so, being angry that they were struck by a car or fell in that ditch or lifted that heavy weight that their employer told them they had to lift and injured their back. Whatever the inciting event, they perceive it as the source for all of their problems. And while it is a big problem, once you make it the source of all your problems and do nothing but think about how unfair your situation is, you create tremendous barriers to ever getting around it. If you live your life thinking about nothing but how much pain you are in and how miserable you are, chances are you're going to remain that way forever. And with mindfulness, you learn how to stop doing that, how to stop perseverating on the unjustness of your situation, how to accept your situation, and how to move forward despite your situation or because of your situation. Sometimes it's a silver lining. Sometimes it opens doors that you never would have considered available to you had you not experienced in the first place. But you'll never know until you stop wishing that you weren't where you are. And there are a variety of techniques for meditation and mindfulness, and all of them can work. But the bottom line is, you begin by understanding that the only moment you can influence is the moment that you're in right now. And then you learn techniques for how to stay in the moment that you're in right now. And by moment, I mean this exact second. I'm talking right now. The only thing I can influence is the word that is coming out of my mouth at the moment. I can have a plan for what to say moving forward, but I'm inexpert at talking into a camera, and so it's sometimes tedious for me. And sometimes I look back over what has been said and wish I could do it differently. And true, I could go back and erase everything, but I don't think that's all that productive. It's better to learn and move forward and continuously work to improve than it is to wait and hope that you get it perfect from the get-go, because you may never ever try otherwise. So, mindfulness, keeping yourself in the moment, affecting the moment that you're in, not worrying about the past, not worrying about something you can't change, and planning for the future, but not assuming that you're going to be able to predict the future based on your actions today. You can improve the probability of an outcome that you want, but you can't guarantee an outcome that you want. I cannot be a professional basketball player because I'm too old, I'm too fat, I'm too slow, and I'm too untalented. And so I'm never going to get there. But I got a lot of other things I do well and that I am talented enough to do, and I've chosen to focus on those. So that's how I employed mindfulness without ever thinking about it. I employ mindfulness in other ways too. There are a lot of things in my life that haven't gone exactly the way that I wanted them to, and I'm not exactly where I expected to be, but I certainly have found a way to make my situation as good as it can be in this moment. And I'm satisfied with that. That is mindfulness. You can go online and you can learn all sorts of techniques for how to do mindfulness type meditations. And there are lots of people that have given in-depth explanations. We may come back to that at a later video if there's interest. The next concept is manifestation. And manifestation is the belief that by convincing yourself that a reality is possible, you can make this reality true. And so you'll be able to find many gurus on the internet who will tell you how to manifest all the things you might possibly want in life, how to create these things for yourself, whether it's wealth or love or status, power, pain relief. If you believe it, and if you believe it in the right way, and if you say the right words in your mind or out loud, or if you approach your life with the right intention, you can actually create the world that you want to create. Now, is this really all that different from mindfulness? Maybe not, and I'll talk about how they are very similar here in a few minutes. But it's a different philosophy. Instead of saying, it's on me to create my situation, what you're saying is, I am putting out into the universe the expectation for the situation I want to create, and by doing that, these things will flow to me. And so there are good examples of this in everyday life that people don't think about manifestation, such as smile and the world smiles with you. And you may have noticed, I have, that if I spend more time smiling at people and being pleasant to them, I get more pleasantness in return. If I don't get angry on the road and honk my horn and just get out of the way when somebody's in a bigger hurry than me and let them go past me, I don't have to worry about them anymore. They're unlikely to try and run me off the road, or I'm unlikely to get into an altercation with them and bring on all of the negative energy that goes with it, because I'm not participating in that negative energy. I'm participating in the positive energy, and so I can say to myself, I'm in no hurry to get where I'm going, and I want to arrive safely. And maybe that person on the road has an emergency, and rather than trying and understand what they're thinking or get into a confrontation with them for being aggressive with me, I choose to just get out of the way and bring a safe driving experience for myself. And I put that out to the universe, and guess what? My likelihood of getting to my destination without a problem just went up. Now, did I manifest that reality by putting out my energy into the universe and getting the energy that I want in return? Or did I just make a sound decision and act on it and get the result that I wanted? It just depends on what your approach to life is and how you look at life as to what your reality is, but the end result is the same. I chose in that moment to be mindful and to say, okay, it's not going to help me to argue with that guy on the road behind a 4,000-pound machine. I'm just going to get out of the way, let them carry on. And the chances are I won't ever have to think about it again. The third way of thinking about this concept is hand of God. This is basically saying that you will allow your religion to bring you what you need in this life and in the afterlife. And there are many, many people around the world who feel very, very strongly about this approach to life and living and will lay down their lives over their religious beliefs. They're all a little bit different, whether you're a Christian, Catholic, or Protestant, or you're a Muslim. There are different rules that you have to follow, but the gist of it is you have to lead a devout enough life to get the outcome that you want. And if you do, God will look after you, God will provide, and in the end, you will reach your reward. This is true in just about any religion that I can think of. Even the Buddhists who don't really worship a god, accept that the Siddhartha Buddha set down rules for how to live life in order to achieve spiritual enlightenment and nirvana, and that while much of it is in your hands, being mindful again, or perhaps manifesting it by living a pure life, you will be rewarded for doing things correctly, and you will ultimately reach the point where you no longer have to continue to repeat this path here on earth, and you will attain enlightenment in heaven. Even Alcoholics Anonymous says you've got to turn over your situation to a higher power in order to be able to begin to heal. You have to accept the fact that alcohol is more powerful than you are and learn that you cannot defeat it on your own. You have to start out wanting to defeat it in the first place and no longer allow it to control your life. But once you've come to that realization, then you have to turn over responsibility to some higher power. And I don't think they're specific about which higher power, but you must enlist help. Now, is this mindfulness? Maybe. Is this manifestation? Perhaps. Is this hand of God? Well, that's pretty much what they call it. So they're all the same thing. And for the hardcore scientists among us, even the physicists have had to accept these concepts. We like to think that math and physics are pretty absolute concepts, but really, are they? If you look at the studies that are being done and have been done with light, it's very clear that we don't understand all of the properties of light and how it functions. And I'm just going to run through a few of these concepts right now. There are people that say it better elsewhere, and I'll give you a description for somebody who did a very good job of it and helped me really solidify my own thoughts. But you can look back several hundred years to something called the dual slit experiment, where scientists were trying to understand, is light a waveform or is light a particle? And by performing these experiments, they further muddied the waters. Then came Einstein. And Einstein came up with the concept of photons, which are discrete packets of light, and it helped to further explain how light could behave as both a particle and as a waveform, depending on the situation. Since then, with improvement in measurement techniques and technology, the situation has even become more complicated. We've learned that light behaves differently whether it's being observed or not, and that if it's being observed, it may behave in one fashion, and if it's not being observed, it may behave in another fashion. And you can look up studies from John Stuart Bell in the 60s and even more recently at the Imperial College of London if you want to be more confused. And you can see that the speed of light is not absolute. It's dependent on how it's evaluated. Einstein did say that everything was relative. Well, some of these later scientists have begun to prove it, and in some instances, experiments have been done showing that light can make decisions retroactively and decide if it is a particle or a wave before it's even emitted under some experimental conditions. And while I'm not saying that light is thinking, I am saying that our understanding of how light functions is far from complete. And this is something incredibly basic I have to deal with every time I make a video, and I have to find the right place to do filming so that you can see me in my face and not get washed out and not have unpleasant colors. So it's a challenge for everybody. Even the physicists have come to understand that reality is probabilistic. Reality is just a series of probabilities. There's no absolutes. So if there are no absolutes in physics, how can there be an absolute in your life? Everything is changeable. Everything is mutable. Nothing is set in stone. And by having the intention to change it, no matter what approach you use, you're more likely to achieve what you want to achieve. There's a very good YouTube channel called Astrum, and he does a good job of giving very clear explanation for these physics concepts in a short video, and I'll link it down below so you can review it. So the obvious question is, how does all of this mesh with the concept of ambulate, hydrate, meditate, and detox to improve your function and reduce your pain? Well, basically, all of these concepts are necessary to push your life in the direction that's more meaningful and have higher quality, and without following these basic tenets, which are very simple concepts, you're not likely to be able to achieve the result that you want to achieve. If you're medicated to the point that your function is impaired, you're not going to be able to do the things that you want to do. And we know that for some drugs, any amount of it is going to ultimately lead to impairment. And so the best approach is to use none of them at all. It's not going to improve your function over time. It may improve your function immediately or for a few hours, but you can't live your life drunk or stoned and expect to get a fulfilling quality of life out of it, unless that's what you want. And if you want to live your life drunk or stoned, it's probably no reason for you to be here listening to me in the first place. You're happy and satisfied with your situation. The same is true with hydration. You can't optimize cellular function if you aren't adequately hydrated. And without optimal cellular function, your body isn't going to work the way you want it to. And again, if you want to be able to get up and get moving and live your life to your fullest capacity, then you're going to need to do those things. Ambulation is obvious. The more you train your body to function well, the more likely it is going to function well. 100% guaranteed, the more it will function well. If you don't walk and don't practice walking and don't build stamina for walking, you're not going to be able to walk. We know this, even from, astronaut studies. They come back from orbit and they can't stand because they've lost muscle mass, they've lost muscle tone, and they've not properly hydrated for a variety of reasons. And so they have to restore all of these functions, and they have to work incredibly hard while in outer space in zero gravity in order to preserve these functions. It's no different here on Earth. You can achieve the same results as an astronaut just by going to bed. And this is part of how we used to study the physiologic effects of zero gravity and weightlessness, is by enforced bed rest. And how do I know this? Well, my father was a flight surgeon at NASA, and before we were sending men into orbit for extended periods of time, in order to understand the effects of zero gravity, we were doing tests on subjects with bed rest and seeing how they would respond physiologically. This is how some of the protocols were developed for extended space flight. It works, and we know it works. Hydration, ambulation are important. And finally, even if you can't walk, you're going to be better off if you can maximize what physical function you have. If you're in a wheelchair, by keeping your upper body strong, you're going to be able to do more things. And if you are a quadriplegic, by exercising the muscles that you do have and keeping them as strong as possible, you're going to be more independent than you will if you allow your body to completely deteriorate and you become entirely dependent on technology or the benevolence of others in order to survive. That would be a pretty scary situation, I would imagine. I'd want to be able to do some things for myself, no matter what my situation was, and practice will allow you to do that. Strengthening will allow you to do that. It's all part of ambulation, of the concept of ambulation. So now somebody's going to say, well, then can I manifest my way out of the reality that I'm in a wheelchair? I don't know. Perhaps you can. I mean, one might call it a miracle, but maybe it is a manifestation. Or maybe it's an intention. Maybe it happens from mindfulness. I think most of us would like to believe that miracles can happen. And none of us can really say that it wasn't brought about by intention, or it wasn't brought out by manifesting the will to walk again, or even by the hand of God. It just depends on how you look at it. I recognize that this is a complex subject and it's mostly filled with non-answers, but I hope that it's been provocative and it helps you to understand a little bit more about your situation and the control that you actually do have over it, whatever that situation is. My focus is pain and pain control. And I know for sure that if you follow these 4 basic approaches, you will be better off than if you don't follow these 4 basic approaches for managing your pain. We also know that not even physics has the answer. Not even the best mathematical minds in the world can tell us what the likelihood of an outcome is. All they can tell us is about the probability that something will happen based on the given information. The probability is the more you work at manifesting your reality, the more likely you are to be able to create that reality. I'll leave you with the sage words of Andy Dufresne from The Shawshank Redemption, when he says, I guess it gets down to a simple choice, really. Get busy living or get busy dying. I hope this video has been interesting and informative for you. Please like and subscribe if it has. It's the only way that I know that the information is useful. If you have questions about anything that I've said, please comment below, and I'll be happy to get back to you with another video further explaining some of these concepts. I will include the links down below for the specific studies that I have referenced today. And again, thank you for watching.